Hi everybody, welcome to my Sky Diary for July 2021. Despite the bright skies, we've still got some things to see up in the night sky, or early morning, or early evening. So stay up a little bit later, get up a little bit earlier and get out and have a look. So here's what to look forward to this month. Don't forget, if you find the Sky Diary useful, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe. So see you in a moment. Okay, so we're going to start off with the constellations that are visible towards the north. These are the Circumpolar Constellations. And of course, we start off with Ursa Major, the Great Bear here, with the 7 stars of the Plough, or the Big Dipper, as our American friends like to call it, over here as well. And of course, Dubhe and Merak, the stars here, point towards Polaris, which is in Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Meandering between the two bears, you've got the constellation of Draco the Dragon, and then opposite from Alcor Mizar, this double star or multiple star in the tail of the Plough, come through Polaris, you come to the W or M-shaped Cassiopeia, the Queen, over here, lying in beautiful part of the Milky Way. Lots of nebulae clusters to enjoy scanning with the telescope in there. And you've got King Cepheus between Cassiopeia and Draco, and then the less distinct Camelopardalis, the giraffe, nestled between them there. And then the very faint lynx getting very close to the horizon down here. And Perseus, which has been at its lowest and is now starting to rise in the northeast. And if you've got a really clear horizon, you may be able to see the bright star Capella. Of course, that's overhead during midwinter, but it's sufficiently far north to not set from these latitudes. So if you've got a really good horizon, see if you see Capella twinkling away towards the northern horizon at its lowest there. So this is looking south. These are the stars that are at their highest. So these are at their best on view. We've got Cygnus, which is getting fairly high at the moment. Next to there, we've got Lyra. And we've got Aquila, and of course the 3 bright stars, Deneb, Vega and Altair, make up what we call the summer triangle. Next door to Lyra, we've got Hercules with the 2 wonderful globular clusters nestled in there. Corona Borealis is over here. Virgo is starting to set over here, so all the galaxies are starting to disappear. Libra, and then right towards the south, we've got Scorpius and the bright orangey red star Antares shining really low. Above that, we've got Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. So it's got the head and the tail of the serpent over here. And then low in the south, we've got Sagittarius. And just coming up, we've got Capricornus and Saturn just starting to become visible as well. Okay, this is looking west, so these are the constellations that we're starting to lose. You can see Ursa Major is getting a bit low in the northwest. That's going to give us problems for Comet Leonard later, but we'll come to that towards the end of the presentation. Leo is now starting to set, so all the galaxies associated with Leo are now starting to disappear. Virgo, again, getting very low to the horizon, so season of galaxies is starting to diminish. Coma Berenices is still a little bit higher, so there's a little bit more value to be had with capturing galaxies in Coma Berenices. Bootes, the herdsman with the bright orange star Arcturus, is fairly high up. So looking east, these are the constellations that are rising, so these are getting better and better each evening. Of course, you've got Lyra and Cygnus and Aquila that we mentioned already. They're starting to get fairly high now. We've got some of the small constellations associated with them, like Sagitta, Delphinus in there as well. Just coming up in the east, you've got the square of Pegasus, the winged horse, just starting to rise. And next door, we've got Andromeda, the Andromeda galaxy, just located just over here as well. And then Aquarius starting to come up because that's where Jupiter is. It's getting a little bit higher on the ecliptic, so it's getting a little bit better to see. So let's talk about the planets. Mercury, it actually reaches western elongation on the 4th of the month, but it's always going to stay close to the morning twilight. So it's visible in the morning sky, but because of the shallow angle of the ecliptic, it's not going to be very easy to see at all. Venus is visible in the western evening sky after sunset, but it too stays very low to the horizon, so it does become a bit of a challenge to see it because of that angle of the ecliptic. And it reaches its furthest from the sun in October, late October, so it's going to be in the evening sky for a long time, but don't forget it will stay very low to the horizon. Mars, we're now starting to lose it. Okay, it's a lot smaller than it was last year when it gave a great apparition at opposition. But it's sinking into the evening twilight, and that's going to be lost very soon. Jupiter and Saturn, both low in the southern sky towards midnight. And Uranus, that's visible low in the morning eastern sky as well. And Neptune is visible very low in the morning southeastern sky. So that's where all the planets are for July. Of course, this time of year is Noctilucent cloud season. There have been a few really good displays visible already this year from the UK. So just get out and have a look. So what do we look for? Well, after it gets dark, look out to the northwest, because these are clouds that are lit up by sunlight coming through the atmosphere, because these clouds are really high. So if you look towards the northwest after sunset, you should, if there's a display, see them shining above the northwestern horizon. Of course, as the Earth rotates, they will move around the sky, but we may expect to see clouds visible until late this month or even into August. So keep a lookout and see if you can. So northwest, about an hour after sunset is about the best time to view them. And around midnight, because the Earth's rotating and the sun is below the northern horizon, of course the clouds will start to appear and they'll move gradually towards the northern part of the sky. And then as we approach morning, they will gradually move around until just before dawn breaks, and they'll be visible in the northeastern sky, just under where the sun is going to come up. So have a look out and see if you can see some of these Noctilucent clouds. Of course, I don't think we're going to get quite as good a display as we did last year when Comet Neowise was around, but you just never know. That's the great thing about these. You just never know when you're going to see them. Okay, the moon. First quarter. Last quarter is on the 1st of July, so that's when the moon's going to start disappearing out of our sky. So that's great for us deep sky imagers and observers. On the 4th of July, this is when Mercury is at greatest western elongation, so it's visible in the eastern morning sky. But this is the view at 3 o'clock in the morning universal time, and of course you can't see Mercury because it's just rising at that time in the morning. So you see just how difficult that's going to be. You've got the moon shining brightly here, and just to familiarize yourself, we've got Auriga with the bright star Capella shining there, Perseus starting to get a bit higher. So it's only just rising as the sky brightens. Cetus, the head of Cetus here, and it's going to be really difficult to see Mercury. 4th or 5th of July, the moon passes south of Uranus. So here's the moon, and this is the view of the sky. So it's a little bit earlier in the morning, so the sky is a little bit darker. So you can see the Pleiades quite nicely here. So this is the constellation of Pisces, head of Cetus, Perseus, and of course the Pleiades, and Uranus is just here. So we need to look a little bit closer. It's below Aries, and here's the moon, here's the head of Cetus, and here's where Uranus is here. It's this star here. It's the left hand of the two brightest stars. So you will see it gradually moving relative to that star over the coming week. So watch the position of that star, or what looks like a star, change as time goes by. So that's on the 4th of July. By the 5th of July, the moon has moved over to here, and you can see Uranus hasn't moved much at this time, but the moon's moved quite a bit from over here to over here at 2 o'clock in the morning. 6th of July, got a nice treat. The thin crescent moon is going to be close to the Pleiades in the eastern morning sky, about 2:30 universal time. So it's 3:30 British summer time. So Pisces, the head Cetus, Perseus, Aries, Auriga with the bright star Capella over here, and of course Taurus, the bull, and the Pleiades star cluster. So get out there, and the moon should look absolutely wonderful. A lovely thin crescent moon and some great earth shine. If you leave it too late, the sky's going to be brighter, so the earth shine won't be as bright. But there's still more treats to come, because on the 7th of July, the moon's even thinner. So we have to go out a little bit later at about 2:45 universal time. So you see the moon's moved a little bit further over, so it's a little bit lower in the sky, which is why we have to leave it a little bit later. And again, you should be able to see some lovely earth shine in there, but the sky at this time is going to be a little bit brighter. So just to orientate yourself, there's Auriga and Capella and the Pleiades, of course, but they're going to start to get lost in that twilight sky. And then the 8th of July, the moon's going to be even thinner. So we have to go out about 3 o'clock to get it at decent altitude above the horizon. But of course, the sky is going to be very bright at this time. So we're not going to see the earth shine quite as much as we did on the 2 days leading up to this. Okay, so that's Taurus, Aldebaran, Auriga, and Capella in there. And the Pleiades, but of course, they're going to be lost in the twilight quite a bit. 10th of July, we've got the new moon. So that's over here where we've got the new moon. So that's the great time for getting out and doing some deep sky work, as long as the clouds clear, of course. And it's been a horrible, horrible month of June for astronomy. But there you go. Anyway, carry on. So on the 11th of July, the moon comes out of the twilight, and we should, at about 8:15 universal time, so 9:15 British summer time, look over towards the western sky, and you should see an extremely thin crescent moon. Here it is here. Of course, you're not going to see these constellations of Gemini and Cancer or Leo, because they're going to be lost in that bright twilight. But you should be able to see the crescent moon faintly earth shone in there in the twilight before it sets. So get out there and have a look and see if you can see that. And if you look to the left of it, you may just about be able to see Venus starting to shine through that glow. But you need to leave it a little bit later for it to show up really, really clearly. So we're going to do that on the next evening, or leave it a little bit later. So we're going to go out a little bit later till it gets a little bit darker, and this is about 8:30 in the evening. You can see the moon's a little bit lower in the sky. We're going to see the earth shine, but you can see Venus is starting to show up really, really nicely here. You're not going to see the constellations because they're going to be really lost. You may see this star here, Regulus in Leo, but the other stars you're probably not going to be able to see because the skies are going to be too bright in that area. And there's the moon, and there's Venus. On the 12th of July, Moon, Venus and Mars are close together, because the one thing I didn't mention in the last slide is Mars is close by as well. Remember I said it's being lost in the evening twilight? Well, it's almost lost already. This is the view at about 8:48 universal time, so 9:48 British summer time. View towards the west, and you'll see the crescent moon, which has moved up past Venus, so it's a little bit later at about 10 to 9 universal time. And you see again Cancer, Leo, there's the moon, and of course there's the very bright Venus. But if you've got a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, have a look at Venus, because Mars is very close to Venus at this time. So if you look a little bit closer, there you can see Venus, and there you can see Mars shining right next to Venus. So they are very close at conjunction on that date. Here's Regulus, which you may be able to see to the left of the moon, and of course the moon showing lovely here, lovely crescent moon with the earth shining up on the dark side. So that should be great. 16th and 17th of July, the moon passes north of the bright star Spica in Virgo. So this is the constellation of Virgo here. This is the constellation of Libra, and of course the bright star Spica is this one in the bottom part of Virgo, but it is getting low in the sky. And here's the view on the 17th, again about 9:30 in the evening universal time, and you can see the moon has moved a little bit further over from Spica there. On the 16th and 17th, or between the 16th and 17th of July, the lunar X is visible, and the best time is about 11:30 to 1 o'clock universal time. The only trouble is this is the view at about 10 o'clock that evening universal time, and you see the moon's really, really low. So it does set before it happens. You can see the lunar X here. This is what the lunar X looks like, made up of the ramparts of three craters: Purbeck, Licau, and Blancanus. But the moon is setting just before the best time to view the lunar X and the lunar V. So it's a bit of a nightmare trying to observe this one, but you might see traces of it before the moon sets if you've got a really good western horizon. And here's the lunar V. So here it is. Here you can see it quite nicely, close to the southern part of Mare Vaporum and close to Rima Hyginus, which is this one here. And here's some of the craters around that area as well to help you identify it. So if the lunar X and lunar V are visible, it's got to be first quarter moon, and that's on the 17th of July. So now the moon's starting to get bright and it's going to start interfering in the evening sky with some of our deep sky stuff. Another planet visible, although I take that, got to take that term lightly. It's not really visible unless you've got a really big telescope or can image quite faint objects. Pluto is at opposition. So this is the view at midnight, and you can see the constellations here. We've got the bright objects, Jupiter, which is in Aquarius. You've got Saturn, which is in Capricorn. So these two planets are wonderfully visible. And we've got Sagittarius, and that's where Pluto is. It's moving away from the bulk of the stars within the Milky Way now. So it is becoming a little bit easier to identify amongst the background stars. And here's where it is in Sagittarius. So you can see it's quite low. So it will be a challenge to find it. But have a look and see if you can. If we look a little bit closer at the area of sky, so this is the view at midnight on the 17th of July when it is at opposition, and here's where Pluto is, and you can probably find it by using these three stars here, which are just above it. There's like two stars close together here and another two stars close together here, so they sort of give an indication of where Pluto is. So if you've got a 10 or 12-inch telescope or bigger, you should be able to view Pluto, but it's magnitude plus 14.3, so it is quite faint, is quite a challenge, but give it a go because you just never know until you try. 19th to the 20th of July, the moon passes north of the red star Antares in Scorpius. So here's the view on the 19th. So just to familiarize yourself, here's Scorpius. We've got the claws of Scorpius and the tail wanders off into the southern hemisphere, so we can't see that below the horizon. And the bright red star Antares, whose name means rival of Mars because it is so red. On the left-hand side, you've got Sagittarius, Virgo, which I said is setting now, and Libra, just to the right of Scorpius, and then a Fucus, the serpent bearer, there. So that's the position of the moon on the 19th of July, and on the 20th of July you can see it's moved a little bit past Antares, but still gives a good indication of where Antares is and where to find it. But because it's a big gibbous moon, it's going to interfere with lots of dark sky observing and imaging. 24th of July is the full moon, so that's when we're not going to really get any dark skies at all, even though the dark skies are starting to come in now because we're getting towards the end of July. 25th and the 24th and 25th of July, the moon passes south of Saturn. So here's the view on the 25th, which is about the best view we're going to get. So just to familiarize yourself, we've got the very bright planet Jupiter in Aquarius heading north, so it's getting a lot easier to observe. And Saturn over here in Capricornus. Here's Sagittarius again, and here's the moon nestled beneath Capricorn. And then on the 26th of July, the moon's moved across below Jupiter. So here's where the moon is, just below Jupiter on the 26th of July. 28th of July, the moon passes south of Neptune. Here's the moon, here's Neptune. So just familiarize yourself again. Here's Pisces, the fish, Capricornus, and here's Jupiter, and Neptune is just here. And if we have a look a little bit closer, Neptune's a little bit easier to see than Pluto. Here's Aquarius, and here's Neptune. It's that faint star there, not the bright one here, but the faint star there. It's about plus 7.8, so about 8th magnitude, so you should be able to see it in reasonable binoculars or small telescopes. You should be able to find it. So have a look and see if you can. 31st of July is the last quarter moon, so that's right at the very end of the month. So that's most of what I've got to say for July. One last thing to add is Comet Leonard. This is the path of the comet during most of the year from January to November, and the position shows 10-day intervals. So you can see Bertes, Canis Venatici, here's Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and the Plough here, and Dubhe and Merak, the pointers for Polaris. Here's where it was on 1st of January, February, March, April, May, June. So here's where it is on the 1st of July. You can see it's moved away from the pointers now and is now coming across here. It's getting lower in the sky, but of course so is Ursa Major as the weeks go by. But we should be able to get some good views in the morning sky a little bit later. And here's where it's going to be at the end of the month on the 1st of July. So this is the path of the comet during this month. And then it comes around, and then we'll talk about that a little bit later. Or have a look at my other video all about Comet Leonard, which tells you what we may expect to see, but you can never tell with comets. So here's where it is. So this is Dubhe and Merak. This shows the comet's path at 1-day intervals, and it's around 15th magnitude, so it is quite faint. So here's Merak. Dubhe is just behind me over here. So here's where the comet is on the 1st of July, 15th of July, and the 30th of July. So although it's 15th magnitude, it's now getting close to the sun, it's now getting close to the Earth, and it should start brightening. So keep an eye out and see how Comet Leonard is doing. Here's the only image I've managed to capture of it so far on the 25th of May, and you see it's very, very faint. You may be able to perhaps see, if you've got a good imagination, a faint tail leading away from it. Now, before I finish, last thing I'd like to say is you may have heard about Comet C 2014 UN271, and lots of stories about it being a monster comet. Well, yes, it's about 100 kilometers across, and it is huge. And lots of people saying it's going to be a fantastic sight in 2031. Well, it isn't, I'm afraid. So if you've seen any of those stories, take them with a pinch of salt, because it's not going to be a fantastic sight, and this diagram will probably explain why. So this is the diagram of the planets in the solar system, but it's the outer solar system we're looking at here. So this orbit is the orbit of Pluto. This is the orbit of Neptune, orbit of Uranus, orbit of Saturn. So this is Jupiter, this is Mars, and Earth is right in the middle there, hidden away. This is the path of the comet. So it's coming down and it's going through the solar system and out the other side and then off. So it's got a huge orbit, so we don't know when it's going to come back. But you see how far the comet is from the sun when it passes through the solar system? It's still going to be a lot further away from the sun than the planet Saturn. So it's not going to get really, really active, because it's not going to get very warm as it approaches the sun. So it's going to stay really frigidly cold. So we don't expect it to really become nice and active and produce a fantastic sight. It'll be interesting to see how it does behave, because it is a new comet coming in from possibly the Oort cloud, which is this big pool of comets way, way outside the inner solar system. So it will be an interesting object for astronomers to study with big telescopes. I don't know how bright it's going to get. I guess predictions will come out close to the time. We've got a long time to wait till 2031. but it's not going to be a fantastic sight in the sky. It isn't even going to be anywhere near as good as, I guess, Comet Leonard is at the moment. Just a guess. So here's stories about Comet 2014 UN271, taken with a pinch of salt. Okay, so anyway. Okay, I hope you found the Sky Diary useful. If you have, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take care, folks, and I'll see you soon.